Last October we experimented with our first ever Bokashi heap. I was going to say compost, but it's not compost because it's fermented. I'm sure a lot of you out there have heard of Bokashi before, especially for sort of small scale home use. The Bokashi compost caddies that you can get for your kitchen, where you can put your cooked food scraps in and add a bran which is basically inoculated with microorganisms, and that bran then helps break down the food scraps and turn it into fertiliser which you can take out to your garden. And that's great, but we're really interested in doing that on a large scale. The big difference between Bokashi and compost is that Bokashi is fermented material. There seems to be some debate over what it actually translates to, but it seems to translate to well fermented organic material. As a lot of you might know from following our vlogs, we've been talking about the dilemma of trying to find large amounts of compost to do a no-dig system. Where we live, it's very rural and there's not that many places that do the large volumes of municipal waste compost. So we've always been trying to think, like, how can we get a large volume of very nutritious seed-free compost? Of course, we have access to a lot of good materials for making compost, and we've made great compost over the years using our chickens to help in the process, but we're never managing to get it completely weed seed free, and it's because we mostly do a cold composting process. We just don't really feel like devoting the time to turning heaps every couple of days, and we don't have the machinery to do it on a large scale. We're always looking out for a different way of doing it. The big difference with Bokashi compared to compost is that it's not an aerated heap, it's an anaerobic heap. We're going to be wrapping it up in silage sheets, the plastic tarps that we use in the market garden, keeping the air out. And we're not going to be turning it, we're going to be leaving it. The turnaround time for creating a usable fertiliser is a matter of weeks, maybe 2 months at the very most. Because you're not turning it, you're not releasing carbon into the atmosphere. It's fermented, which suggests that it retains a lot more nutrients, it's a lot more alive. Now, of course, we're having to buy in this EM, the effective microorganisms, which is essentially a tea. It smells lovely, it smells very much almost like beer, very yeasty smell, but it's essentially a tea of a few different important strains of bacteria and yeasts. And we've decided to go with the laboratory made EM right now. There are ways of making your own EM, there's ways of capturing your own correct yeasts from your own farm. We've also bought some amendments, that's some clay and some shell grit to regulate the pH and to help the materials bind. Again, in the future we're going to look into whether we would really need to add those amendments or whether we can find those amendments here on site. So I'll walk you over to the heap. We've just taken a break for lunch. We've been working all morning. The way that this works is that we bring out a few wheelbarrow loads of the goat bedding, and we put that down on top of this plastic sheet. We then give it a sprinkling of the diluted EM, diluted with water, and then we throw a few handfuls of both the clay and the seashell grit onto this pile. Finn and I went over to a patch of buckwheat that we've got growing in the market garden, piled that on as a layer as well, just to make sure that we've got enough green components, the nitrogen component, because there's a huge amount of straw carbon in the goat shed. There certainly is a difference between goat manure and cow manure in the volume, so we just wanted to make sure that we had enough of the nitrogen ingredient in there. So we've put a layer of the buckwheat, and we'll probably keep on putting a few more layers like a lasagna in there, adding the EM, adding the amendments. Once we've got the heap to our desired volume, we're going to wrap it up in this plastic sheet, excluding the air, and then we're going to walk away and see how it is after a few weeks.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you want to watch more, then please do head over to our YouTube channel, where you'll find full-length vlogs and other tap shorts.